must shine upon Hyrule once again. Now go.
I'd like to start off by talking about the atmosphere in terms of perspective for the viewer and the player and what's going on screen. So, in the beginning, we start off in a cave, and there are a couple different atmospheric sounds here between the cave wind and the water drips in the background. As that progresses and we go behind Link and a voiceover starts, I use the volume trim tool to cut down on those atmosphere sounds of the cave to give prominence to the voiceover here. And I keep that going until the camera shifts back into player mode. As Link runs up the stairs and out into Hyrule, I use FabFilter on the cave sounds and as well on the nature sound effects that I have blending in to use a high pass and a low pass filter on both of those in opposite directions. One to muffle out the cave sounds as he moves further away, and one to widen out to full frequency with the nature sounds as it fades in here on this top track. As it hits full frequency, I cut with the volume trim tool again as the music plays, as we're giving focus and prominence to the music during this cinematic moment in the intro of the game. Another place where I cut the volume is when the player enters the pause menu to again shift the focus to the actions on screen. For this project, I didn't want to rely fully on my sound library, but I actually wanted to do some Foley. So, using my Zoom recorder, I went into my garage and recorded myself walking around in some boots to get that echoey kind of reverb as a good starter place here. And then, as we know that Link runs up the stairs and walks into some puddles, I went into my backyard and filled up my dog's kiddie pool. But the plasticky sound was not ideal, so I needed to actually use my hose on the gravel in our backyard, which ended up being perfect. I treated each of the sounds with a different EQ. I pitch shift some up to give more of a kind of a twang or a high pitch, more frequency of his footsteps to show that he's more light on his feet, and then used revibe as my reverb to really dial down the size of this echoey kind of tunnel that he's running through. And unfortunately, living in Vegas, there's not much access to grass, so I did have to go into my sound library for the grassy footsteps. I also wanted to showcase a little bit of voice acting in this project. So, for the voiceover here in the beginning,
Link, you are the light, our light.
I took that recording and processed it using little altar boy, vocal synth. I used a limiter and some reverb here to nail down that huge echoey chamber of the cave, and a little bit of boost in the bass here to give myself more of a prominence, like God voice speaking to Link as he stares into this bright light that tells him he is the only hope.
Link, you are the light, our light, that must shine upon Hyrule once again. Now go.
For Link's grunts, I processed another vocal take.
Hey! Ho!
And I pitched it up quite a bit using Altar Boy, a little bit of Antiri's throat, and also when he's in the cave, the revibe. Pitched myself up a bit since Link does have a more adolescent quality to him than I do. And then later when Link swings. So I thought it was a fun opportunity to be able to use a little bit of voice acting in this project as well. For this project, I also wanted to showcase a bit of my composing skills. So as I was putting the sound design together, I mapped out about 40 to 42 seconds that I had to establish a theme as Link runs out onto the hill, looks at the valley, and sees the old man. I needed it to start off somewhat whimsical, into something more grand as the camera pans around the valley, and then end in a mysterious sort of way as the old man looks at Link, turns away, and walks away. So the instruments that I chose to do this are going to be a warm felt piano, and then a celeste for a more youthful, whimsical, childlike sound, a classical guitar to keep the rhythm going and the movement going as the camera moves, and then for that sadness and that grandeur type huge sound, I used a viola in there. I first wrote this piece at around 98 BPM, and I was really happy with the structure of it, but it was about 5 seconds too long when I put it back into the session. So I came back in here and was lucky enough to just bump the tempo up to 110 to get what you hear in the video. During the back half of this project, I really kept finding little things that would poke out to me that I would need to add or just modulate a little more to bring more realism and immersion into the piece. From the footsteps that you vaguely hear of this mystery man walking away, to the sound of the location in the bottom, the pause menu whoosh with the fading of the atmosphere, the alert sound, a little ding on the light, that stone that he steps on right there. I wanted to make sure that all the footsteps matched the actual ground he's walking on. Bush, as he's walking through taller grass, I wanted to give more ruffling into the piece as he walks by. Right there. And the quirky little noises that pop up, just trying to keep that spirit of Zelda Breath of the Wild consistent, although original in my own flair and flavor.